one thing was very certain, that all members of the Constituent Assembly, they were not at all ready to accept the communist method of revolution. And that is very firm. And it means, what was the option left out? It means there was a liberal ideology and socialist and Gandhian. If we look our Constituent Assembly, then we can see that it was because, and it is not only the view of Granville Austin, because Rajiv Bhargava also said that. Rajiv Bhargava also said that, and you can refer the name of Rajiv Bhargava, and he said that if you look the national movement of India, you can find out the various liberal tradition in the national movement of India. Although this is very much part of debate, because liberal tradition is a part of Western tradition. Liberal tradition believe in the primacy of individual. Liberal tradition means where individual is important, rationality is important, constitutionalism is important, peaceful change of society is important, and that is a basic meaning of a liberal tradition. The question is that then there was a debate whether Indian society was a conservative society. India was a society where community was more important, caste was more important, religion was important factor. So how we can say that India had a liberal tradition? So there was a debate over that. But it's very interesting to know that our assembly, and therefore Preamble incorporates the liberal vision. And I can tell you the fact that Preamble incorporates the liberal vision, where Preamble speak for liberty, where Preamble speak for a democratic republic form of government, where Preamble says that the liberty of belief, faith, worship. So this incorporates the very much liberal vision of the Constitution. And believe me, it is said that most of the members of the assembly, they were very much trained in the liberal ideology, including Dr. Ambedkar. And if you look the profile of the members of the Constituent Assembly, you will find out that most of the members of the Constituent Assembly were more comfortable with that liberal ideology. Although we cannot say that liberal ideology is antithetical to socialist ideology. And the important, moreover, see where Rajiv Bhargava says that it is if we want to trace the instances of a liberal ideology in the national movement, then we can give various examples like, see, demand of freedom, the demand of freedom of speech and expression. So that was a very part of national movement right from Tilak. So when we are seeking, and Tilak says that, see, Swaraj is our birthright and we shall have it. Therefore, this shows that we had a kind of a liberal tradition, and that means freedom of speech and expression. That means freedom of speech and expression. And moreover, they were not only demanding this freedom of speech and expression, but Nehru report, if you look, the Nehru report, Nehru drafted a constitution more on the line of a liberal democratic vision. So Nehru report again verify this, that Indian national movement had an ultimate faith in liberal ideology. So we cannot say that no, liberal ideology is very much borrowed. In our society is a traditional. Liberal ideology is a very much a borrowed concept. Like to some extent, if you look the idea of Rajni Kothari. Rajni Kothari says that Indian society is different. Indian society, because he explaining the relation between modernity and tradition from different parameters that we will discuss in caste and politics. But here Rajiv Bhargava says that it was not a new. Liberal tradition was not a new. Even Rajiv Bhargava went to extent of saying that even if you look the idea of Vivekanand, see, it was the idea of Dr. Ambedkar. See, they had a liberal tradition, because liberal tradition means we had ultimate faith in the dignity of individual, autonomy of individual, liberty of individual. So there was some sense of a demand of liberty, importance of dignity during Indian national movement. And therefore, when the question emerged that which road to social revolution, therefore founding fathers accepted that democratic republic method for a social revolution, and that social revolution should be rapid, not violent. That social revolution should be rapid, not violent. Because when our constitution was framed, the entire world was divided into ideological camp, socialism versus capitalism, or more concretely, it was a communism versus capitalism, the liberty. Look, the liberal tradition, and that is a secular, democratic, republic, liberal tradition. We the people, republic. Is it liberal tradition? We the people, see, if people are sovereign, people are supreme. Therefore, some members of the Constituent Assembly, they emphasize about the fact that why we are not beginning our constitution on the name of God. Constituent Assembly denied to accept that. Since our constitution is secular, since our constitution is framed by a body of a human being. Therefore, religion is a personal choice of individual. It is issue of a faith of individual. Why we want to impose a religion over someone else? And that is good example. Here, thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. This is the liberal value. And we cannot deny that. See, equality is also kind of liberal value. Although there may be a different interpretation of equality, but undoubtedly, fraternity along with the dignity of individual. See, liberty, dignity of individual, rationality, the constitutionalism, these are the foundation stone of liberal ideology. And don't you think that our preamble incorporates the liberal ideology? In that way, if Granville Austin explained that, see, what is the way to bring about a social revolution in India? So this is not a single way. This is not a one way. So we are adopting the multiple path. And my dear friends, and that is a view of the post-modernism as of now. And you will be surprised to know that in the Constituent Assembly, they were so much pragmatic. Just example, in the Constituent Assembly, there was a debate over the terms socialism and secularism. These two terms were very much debatable. And because you know that Constituent Assembly want to adopt the socialist goal. But why they were hesitated to include the term socialism in the preamble? Because the meaning of socialism is multiple. Because we can say that after Second World War, each and every person was very much claiming that they are socialist. Each and everyone is celebrating that we are socialist, and people were not certain that what does it mean by socialism. Therefore, see, if social, economic, political, see, it is a justice. We are talking of social, economic, political justice. What is this? Earlier, we have incorporated socialist ideology, but we were not preferring the term socialism. Because wherever we are talking of justice, social, economic, and political, and justice means the maintaining balance, proportion in society. Justice means giving everybody his due. And justice simply means social means the majority should not dictate over the minority. Social justice means we shall not make a discrimination on the basis of caste, religion, race. And economic means each and everyone should enjoy the basic amenities of their life. That is economic. Political means one person, one vote. So isn't it that was a justice? And what happened in the Constituent Assembly when Professor K.T. Shah was arguing that why we are not incorporating socialism. Dr. Ambedkar said that, see, what is this? Justice and equality. This is other name of a socialism. Then why we want to include the too much debatable term? And this again proves that our Constituent Assembly was not tied with any particular ideological dogma. And that is reason it is the best constitution. That is the reason. It is treated as one of the best constitution in the world. And again, if you look, the secularism. See why the term secularism was not added, although our constitution is very much secular. Because if this constitution do not believe about the God, and the constitution is not referring God, and same time the constitution is enacted by the group of the people. If a constitution is enacted with a group of people, undoubtedly it is socialist. So what next to tell that it is socialist constitution? And see, moreover, when the constitution include that freedom of a belief, faith and worship, what is this? It means a relation between individual and God is independent. State will not determine the faith of individual. State will not determine the belief of individual. And state has nothing to do with the worship. Isn't the fact that this is the direct indication of a secular constitution? This is a direct indication of secular constitution, because constitution deals with, again I am saying that the debate of secularism we will discuss later. Caste, religion, these are the broad point of our syllabus. But here we are not entering into that debate, but what I am referring only the preamble, and therefore preamble is a kind of a lighthouse for the understanding entire constitution. In terms of modern technology, we can use preamble as GPS. And why GPS is very important? For searching the destination. GPS keeps our destiny very much intact. So therefore entire preamble is our GPS, which tells that what is the objective of our constitution. Don't you think that our Constituent Assembly is adopting the socialist and liberal goal same time? And probably here we were adopting the principle of golden mean of Buddha. And therefore the scholar like Frederick says that the Indian Constitution incorporate the goal of US Revolution and French Revolution same time. It means because liberal tradition emphasize over liberty, individual dignity, but socialist means we want to ensure the distribution of social resources. Because in India, when India became independent, so there were various kind of division existed in society on the line of caste, on the line of religion. And see, even after 75 years of our constitution, that kind of division very much exists in society. Therefore, India was opting for the socialist goal. And later we will discuss about the DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy. Directive Principle of State Policy is the good example that our Constitution, our Constituent Assembly was very much keen to adopt the socialist goal. And see, isn't it why Nehru was very much visionary? Was Nehru opted for a mixed economy, that was middle path. He opted for a mixture of a liberal ideology and socialist ideology, that was the middle path. And you know that middle path is the most pragmatic path. It's most pragmatic path. So it means we were not willing to adopt the socialist model of Russia, because after 1945, see, on the one hand there was a capitalist model, and that was US. On the other hand, that was a socialist model of Russia. See, what was the problem in Russia? What was the problem in Stalin? It is true that, when Stalin came in Russia, Stalin brought about an economic revolution in Russia. He emphasized about distribution of resources in Russia. So undoubtedly, he tried to make economic equality in society, distribution in society. But on the name of socialism, he suppressed the liberty of individual, freedom of individual. and that was not accepted by our Constituent Assembly. It means we cannot suppress. What was our vision? No individual should be suppressed on the sake of social justice. But both are complementary. It means what you want to say, that our preamble is a similar to Rawlsian concept of justice. Because what Rawls believed that in modern times, what Rawls is of the view that we can empower the marginalized section of society, a least advantaged section of society, with the help of improving the condition of the well-off. Therefore, we need a competitive people. We need a more efficient people. We need more liberty in order to getting more and more resources. So we need more Akshay Kumar. So what kind of constitution we want to make is only for the marginalized section of people. So what we want to prove that whether our Constituent Assembly has guessed the principle of Rawls in advance. Although it appears that our constitution is very close to Rawlsian principle of justice. And Rawlsian principle of justice is a part of theory. And this is the way how we can apply. Remember, and this is the way how we can maximize our marks in section of Indian government and politics. It means how we can compare Rawlsian justice with our preamble. See, for Rawlsian justice, when Rawls make a principle of justice, for Rawls, what is most important? For Rawls, most important, Rawls says that liberty or right is the first priority of a just society. But our preamble says that it is justice. Our preamble says that it is a justice. Justice is the first priority. Equality is the first priority. And then it is come over the liberty. In Rawlsian principle, liberty of individual is very important. Liberty of individual is very important, but to some extent, we have make a very good synthesis. And see, when we talk about liberty, liberty is needed for people like Tata, Birla, other people like, see, Amitabh Bachchan and Neeraj Chopra. So liberty is very important for them. But you know that why socialism is very important, because you look in the earlier phase of life, Neeraj Chopra did not have enough money to purchase their own javelin. And that is the reason why we need a socialism. The earlier Amitabh Bachchan was also struggling in his life when he was engaged in employment in Kolkata. And it means what socialism means, because as far as when we define the socialism, because the definition of socialism is very much vary from person to person. Because what people understand socialism means a kind of arithmetical equality, because each and every person will have the same size of a house. Each and every person should have the same amount of resources. In that way, we cannot obtain socialism. See, our socialism is more closer to the concept of welfare state. What is our socialism? It is more closer to the concept of welfare state. It is more similar to the concept of Rawlsian theory of justice. Therefore, in our constitution, because whenever we talk about liberalism versus socialism, see, the question is very simple. Individual is more important or community is more important? Socialism says that community is more important. Liberalism says that individual is more important. Don't we think that both are important? Therefore, what is our meaning of socialism? We don't want to snatch the property of the rich people. In 1955, there was a Congress session, and Indira Gandhi later defined that what is meaning of socialism in India. See, what is socialism means? Empowering the marginalized section of society rather than curtailing the property of the rich section of society. And in that way, we need socialism does not means making a equal distribution of resources, but socialism means each and every person should enjoy the basic facilities of life. And you remember, this kind of socialism liberalism debate always start in the context of the distribution of vaccination. Recently, what happened? Because whatever happening in the Indian government and politics, being a student of political science, we must have a capability to analyze them theoretically. Therefore, if you look the over, even in the recent days of pandemic, then the question became very critical that we should distribute the vaccination free of cost or we should take a charge of vaccination. The answer is middle path. It means according to socialist premise, distribute the vaccination free of cost the people who are unable to bear the burden of the cost. But what liberals are saying that liberals are of the view that do not distribute the vaccination free of cost because each and everything is involved some price. Because how we can think production of anything without involvement of the cost. Therefore, what is the middle path and how our constitution synthesizes that? Therefore, we can distribute the vaccination for the people below poverty line, but we can take a charge for the people who are the rich section of society, and that is a middle path. That is a middle path. Why extremist path is harmful? Because once we are emphasizing about too much socialism, and that is harming the liberty and the creativity, innovation of individual. And that is reason why most of the billionaires are in US because of liberty. But the people who are occupying the downtrodden section of society, their basic needs should be taken care of. And that was a vision of our Constituent Assembly, which is very much relevant in the present age of liberalization and globalization, because this debate is going on in form of neoliberal economic policy, in form of because now people are propounding the corporate social responsibility, because brute capitalism cannot be accepted, but extreme socialism cannot survive. And why North Korea example of extreme socialism, because in case of extreme socialism we will never allow anyone to do something unique. And in that way, when Granville Austin says that this was a debate of which road of a revolution, and this emphasize that our member of the Constituent Assembly, they are having the objective in their mind, and that objective of the Constituent Assembly is very much incorporated in the preamble, is very much kept in the preamble. And then we talk about Gandhian method. Granville Austin says that our Constituent Assembly has never been Gandhian. See, this is the approach of Granville Austin. And see, Granville Austin is explaining true what he said that. And it is very true that some people say that there were two successors of Gandhi. One was the political succession, and second was a spiritual successor. Who was the spiritual successor of Gandhi? And he was Vinoba Bhave. Vinoba Bhave was a spiritual successor of Gandhi. But as far as Nehru was concerned, Nehru was the political successor of Gandhi. And when this debate emerged in the Constituent Assembly, that which road to social revolution, then it was admitted that Gandhian method of social revolution was neglected altogether. It was not considered very seriously. It means Congress preferred, the Constituent Assembly preferred the democratic republic method. Democratic republic method for bringing about a social revolution. And once we have decided to make a democratic republic, therefore India went for a elected president along with a parliament. So India went for, our Constituent Assembly went for a parliamentary democracy. And it's very true that parliamentary democracy is somehow based on concentration of power. See, why Sriman Narayan Agrawal was not agree with the parliamentary form of government? Because of same reason Gandhi never accepted this parliamentary form of government because the Gandhian criticism of this parliamentary form of government was very much obvious. And Gandhi says that what is the harm in this parliamentary form of government? Gandhi said that it promotes the power of a party first. It promotes the concentration of power in few. See, and concentration of power leads to the violence in society, and that was assumption of Gandhi. That was assumption of Gandhi. But as far as a Gandhian method, what is Gandhian method? If you look the Gandhian method of a government, Gandhian method of government means Gandhian method is a, if you look the Gandhian method of government, that is based on a village-based federation. So Gandhi says that village is a center of power. That was the Gandhian method. The village is center of power, and really, village means it is a India shall be a federation of village, and that was the idea of Gandhi. That was the idea of Gandhi, and the people of village, they will elect the members of block, and members of block, they will elect the members of district, and members of district, they will elect the members of provinces, and the members of provinces ultimately elect the members of Indian lawmaking body. So here power goes from bottom to top. In that condition, where people of village, they're electing the members of block electing members of district. In that condition, we do not know the political party. There is no need of political party, and it appears that power lies in the people. And Gandhi said that because if you want to see the India, you see the village. India lies in a village, not in cities, and that was true after independence, because more than 80% of the people, they were residing in the village. And this was the Gandhian model. And see, Gandhi also opposed that the ICS officers, this bureaucracy should be dismantled. Gandhi also said that Indian National Congress should be changed as a social organization, because the purpose of Indian National Congress is completed. And what was the basic purpose of Indian National Congress? It was the independence of India. And when there was India became independent, then what we need the Congress? What is need of Congress? But the parliamentary form of government is just opposite. The parliamentary form of government means there shall be only one parliament of entire nation, and parliament will make a law for the entire nation. So therefore, Gandhian method is more decentralized. And it is well known fact that Gandhian method of polity is not only decentralized, but Gandhi also emphasized over the small scale industry, handicraft industry. So Gandhian method of economic development was totally different. But the question emerged that it means Constituent Assembly really denied. Constituent Assembly was not sensitive to the demand of Gandhi. Because once we declare Gandhi was a father of a nation, and then we are neglecting the ideas and the very much thought of Gandhi. That is not the case. Although Grenville Austin said that Congress was not Gandhian, and then Grenville Austin also, why Grenville Austin gave the proof. Grenville Austin says that if you look the first draft of Indian Constitution, that was made in 1928 in form of Nehru Report. And if you look the provisions of Nehru Report, not a single provision is a Gandhian. But the question is that Constituent Assembly was not grateful enough towards Gandhi. See, that is not the case. Because time and again we are repeating the fact that Gandhi was not only person, he was a great person. And the idea of Gandhian Ramaraj, again I'm saying that it was more idealistic. And we have to remember the fact that when India became independent, see, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, while he's speaking in the Constituent Assembly, he said something very pragmatic. Sardar Patel says that here we are discussing for a social revolution. And I am very happy to listen that all people are of the Constituent Assembly, they are very much keen to establish a democracy in India. They are very keen to establish a social revolution in India. And I can understand the emotions, and that is welcome. Or Sardar Patel said that, do you know that without unity and integrity, nothing can happen? And after independence of India, even the unity and integrity of India was at the stake. And you know the obvious reasons are there. Hostile approach of Pakistan. There was a problem in Kashmir, problem of princely accession. Can you imagine that on the line of Gandhian idealism? And on the line of Gandhian idealism, we were successfully make a constitution. And moreover, Gandhi, whatever said by Gandhi, that was not supported by Dr. Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar ideas are just opposite to Gandhi. Dr. Ambedkar said that no, we do not want to make a village-based federation. On the contrary, Dr. Ambedkar says that I am looking for a very strong union government. Hence, the idea of Dr. Ambedkar was totally opposite to Gandhi. Gandhi justified, in fact, in the Constituent Assembly. In the Constituent Assembly, the two persons who were in favor of a strong union government. First, it was Vallabhbhai Patel, and second, Dr. Ambedkar. Although the reason was different, and when Vallabhbhai Patel said that we need a strong union government. And why we need a strong union government? In order to making unity and integrity of India. And that very much we can see in the preamble. Unity and integrity of India. And second was Dr. Ambedkar. But Dr. Ambedkar's justification was different. Dr. Ambedkar says that why we need a strong union government? Because here we need a social revolution. And Dr. Ambedkar says that we don't have any faith in the provincial government and not at all any faith in the village panchayat. And Dr. Ambedkar said that the people in village panchayat, they are very much conservative. Even he said that Dalit should look for an option to leave the village. So that is the reason. If you look, the major provision for the well-being of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes is still in the hand of union government. This is not given to state and not at all to the panchayat. Therefore, they have the conflicting opinion. So this was not the question that we were not enough grateful to the idea of Gandhi, but what was a more considerable fact, the occasion in which, the context in which this Constituent Assembly was sitting. And we have never ignored the ideals of Gandhi, and therefore this entire idea of Gandhi were well placed in the idea of DPSP, a fourth part of our constitution. So we have never ignored the idea of Gandhi. And why? Because Gandhian vision was very much accommodated in the fourth part of our constitution under directive principle of state policy, and particularly Article 40 was devoted for the Gram Panchayat, for the self-autonomous village of Gram, and that is realizes by 73rd and 74th Amendment. Particularly by 73rd Amendment, because 74th Amendment speaks for the municipalities. It means just like why we need a separate chapter of DPSP, because we lack the enough resources, and that is a reason that we have never compromised with ideals of Gandhi. And it is not at all that we are saying that Gandhian ideals are secondary in comparison to liberal and socialist ideals, but the mere fact is that look the context in which we are framing the constitution, look the pragmatism, and that is a reason our constitution accommodates the alternative ideologies. Our constitution accommodates the alternative ideologies, and that is sign of a too much pragmatism. Therefore, it includes the socialism too. It includes the liberal tendency too. It very much includes the Gandhian approach too.